All right, my friends, let's get robots doing the hard work for you to create standard operating procedures, SOPs, basically a fancy word for step-by-step instructions. This allows you as a business owner or just if you're just trying to explain a process to somebody to do it one time in a video and then walk away and they will have all the resources they need, including a nice, highly detailed written step-by-step text instruction on how to complete that task. So the first two things we're going to want to do is, in my case, I've created a folder in Dropbox, which I've got Dropbox natively on my computer so I can access it through my normal file explorer. You could easily also do this through just the web version. If you want to log in, Dropbox.com, maybe you're using Google Sheets, wherever these things are going to live, that's where you want to create two different folders. I've created two folders. I actually have a lot of automations, but the two folders that matter for this is I've made SOP to YouTube. This is where I'm actually going to drop the video file that I create that one time, and also GPT generated SOPs. This is where the robots are going to deposit their magic work. In this case, the finished SOP. So I use a program called Move AVI, which has a nice little built-in screen recording feature. There's a ton of screen recording softwares out there. Feel free to look around. Find one that's cheap or that works for you. I recommend that one. Not endorsed. I just like it. So once you have those two folders created, let's go over here to Zapier.com. So Zapier.com, this is a workflow building website. I have a paid tier in this, the lowest paid tier. It's not a whole lot. It's like $100 a year, I think. It's super worth it because I've got so many robots and automations that I use Zapier for, including automating a lot of my social media posting, etc. But in this case, our first trigger that we're going to create, if you click one of these little buttons, first thing you would do is go into your Zapier, of course, click new Zap, create a new Zap, boom, create new Zap. In this case, I've already got one, so I'm just going to walk you through how this one works, right? So I've labeled it SOP Dropbox video to YouTube and SOP because that's what it is. So the trigger event that's going to happen here is when a new video is detected in Dropbox. So that's step one, is it's got to detect that something was there. So you go through the app event, you're going to select Dropbox. The event's going to be new file and folder because I'm only going to be putting video files in this folder, so it's not going to be sending anything but video files. My account, you get logged into your Dropbox account. Again, this could also be Google Cloud, wherever, Amazon Cloud. I don't know what all the other file storing services are, but you want something that makes it very simple for you to be able to put this video into and also receive things back. So Dropbox, you get logged in. So my trigger, this is where everything goes into action, right? So my space is just my default Dropbox space. My folder, I have pointed it to that do not delete SOP to YouTube folder that we created. Again, this lives in the cloud, but it's also here on my desktop, which means I can just drop a folder in here and it gets uploaded to the right place. Include files and subfolders, false. I'm only going to be loading videos into the main one. Include file contents, yes. Then you're going to want to go through. Before you start this, I would go ahead and put a video into that folder so that when you say test event here, it's got a video to pull from because you're going to want some data, some actual real data here to go to these next steps. So boom, you click find new records. It's going to go through and find a bunch of your files that are in that folder. Again, you should be a video file, MP4 in my case. Boom, select that record, click continue, and we're off to the races. Step two, you're going to hit the little plus key. We're going to use a software called, or a service called Cloud Convert. Oh, I should back up and say you're limited in Dropbox to 500 megabytes. So if you're going to record a 25-minute SOP, you're going to have to break that up into two videos because you can only, or find a way to make it compressed because you can only utilize up to 500 megabytes is what Dropbox syncs with through this particular service. So step two, Cloud Convert. Cloud Convert allows you to do 30 conversions a month, which should be enough for you. If not, they do have paid tiers. But this entire step is going to take the video and convert it into an audio file because that's what we're going to use in a minute to have ChatGPT transcribe for us. So you're going to go through, you're going to select in the box that pops up what you're trying to utilize, type in Cloud Convert. Once you get to this step, you're going to want to create an account with Cloud Convert. We'll do that in the next step, but for here, the event is convert a file. That's what you want to pick from the dropdown, convert a file. We're going to go over to account. You get logged into your account. If you don't have one, you can set one up right there on the spot. Again, it's free up to 30, I believe it is, 30 conversions, which should be good enough for you. So let's keep going to the action. This is where things get juicy. So now each step is building on the data from the previous step. We're going to use the output from the previous step to input what we need from the next step. So in this case, Dropbox is done. For file, I know the file exists because it's already pulled that data from Dropbox. So I'm going to go to my direct media link in this case. Yours might be slightly different depending if you're using Google or not. But direct media link, this is the direct link to the actual video file. That's what we want because it needs to be able to send that. Output format, MP3, select MP3 from the dropdown. Input format, I'm using MP4s. If you're exporting as a .mov or something else, you'll want to make sure you put that here instead. File name, I'm leaving that blank. I don't care. We're just uploading it to get it converted at this point. Wait, yes, because you want to wait for this workflow to stop until that this process is complete. MP3 codec, audio codec, choose MP3. So these are all vital steps here. This next one, so just copy my settings. Audio Q scale 0, audio bit rates 128, your volume is going to be 0, channel is going to be 0, sample rate we're going to do 22,050, trim start nothing, everything else nothing. So this is going to return an audio file in a very specific format and compression for us. And then you go to test, it's going to you would click test step. It's going to send off your video that you pulled from originally, and it's going to return a nice little audio file. So in my case, I'm just going to close that because I've already tested this step. So now we're going to use GPT to transcribe the audio. It's going to create a big transcription of what it's listening to. So we're not going to type in Chat GPT. When you go to this next step, you hit the plus key. You're actually going to type in OpenAI, and you're going to look for this GPT-4 Dolly Whisper. Now you do need, this is all assuming that you've got a GPT Pro account, which you're going to need. And you're going to need the API keys, which if you just type in ChatGPT, access my API keys, you can find those pretty simply. They're free to generate. It does cost you a few microcents per use, so you're going to have your credit card on file. Very minimal, unless you're using this all day, every day. You're not really going to get a huge charge from that. So we're going to go to app event for this particular transcribe audio step. Which I've renamed all these. It's going to be some weird default name. You can always click this box and just click rename so you know what you're looking at here. So now we're at this OpenAI step. The event is going to be create transcription. From the dropdown, we're going to go to account. You're going to get logged into your account. Action, here we go. So now we've got the response from the previous step. Task result file is what we're going to be looking for. When you click this box, you can see this particular step. You can click it down here, and you're going to go to task result file. This is the audio file that has been returned. Prompt, skip it. All this you can skip. We just, at this point, want to transcribe the audio. We're already telling it to do that in this first app event here. So we can skip the prompt, response format, skip it. Language, I typed EN for English. You can play with that. If you are speaking in Spanish, you may want to play with your language setting there, but all of mine are in English. Test step, go to it, hit test, boom, it should spit you back a nice transcript. Click continue. Now we're going to go into a ChatGPT step. So when you click the plus key, you're going to type in ChatGPT. Click on ChatGPT. It's going to bring up this particular box. In the event, you're going to go to conversation. This is your bread and butter of how to converse with ChatGPT through Zapier. So conversation, we're going to go to account, we're going to get logged in. Our action, this is where we start getting nice and dirty into the automation here. So in this case, here's my message. Feel free to copy it. At this point, all we're trying to have it do is create a YouTube description from that transcription of the video, which is now audio. It spit it back, right? So I'm going to say write 3 sentences or less describing description for this SOP YouTube video. Ensure the description meets all the requirements, all those good things, formatting, etc. Here's this transcript for the video. And boom, right? So off it goes. This is the description. So then what you want to do is this bottom section here, you're going to scroll down and we see where transcribe audio. There's the content that returned. That's our transcript. So now you want to make sure you feed it that. You click that, and it's going to dynamically insert this when it sends off the ChatGPT. So the model we're using is GPT-4o. That's one of the newest ones, maybe newer at the time of you watching this, so feel free to use the latest. Memory key, so this is like if you start a conversation and I said, hey, John, anytime I say duck, I want you to go back and reference anything we talked about in the duck conversation. In this case, the memory key, I'm using the file name all the way back up from the original Dropbox step because it has the file name that you saved just so that it knows, oh, this particular workflow is all dealing with this one file. So that helps it remember this particular workflow. And then we're going to go down to user. I left all this default. You're a user, you're an assistant, you're a helpful assistant. Max tokens, I went ahead and upped that to 1,000. Default's a little bit lower. Max tokens are just basically the amount of kind of words and that are coming back from ChatGPT just to make sure it has enough funnel and bandwidth to return fully what we need it to give us. Temperature 1, top 1, go to test, boom, do the test. It's going to go through and it should spit you back a nice description. Boom, click continue. Next step, now we need to create our YouTube title. We're going to have it create the title. Same exact workflow here, ChatGPT, conversation, log into your account. This action is going to be a little bit different. This is where you can start dictating the naming convention, which is how you would like it to eventually show up as your finished SOP title, the file name, but also how you want it labeled on YouTube. So in this case, here's a nice little user message, create a YouTube video. You can play with this, you can write it. If you want to copy mine from the screen, feel free here. It's a little detailed. But basically this is where you're going to instruct it to create your YouTube title. I've got some requirements. I want this to follow a very specific naming convention and try to decipher from the transcript what needs to go in these places, right? That's what's important. I gave it an example. And then I also gave it this was a photo booth example. In my case, here's the different elements you might be choosing from that I'm going to be talking about in these videos. So if it's something else you're explaining, you may want to give it a little more breadth of information, whatever the word is, so that it knows what it's can reference and what it should be trying to interpret from the video. So in my case, I'm always talking about a bellows photo booth, a roaming photo booth, or a selfie station. So if I'm talking about one of those things, use these words, bellows, roaming, or selfie, in this particular spot in the name, right? So a little complicated. You're welcome again. You can purchase these prompts from me if you want to purchase the prompt pack and just save yourself all the time here. But at the end, again, drop your content from that original transcription audio step because this is one of the most important steps. This is the meat and potatoes that's explaining it, what we talked about for every other step. So drop the content tag in here. GPT-4, same thing with the memory key. I use the file name from the Dropbox step. User, assistant, helpful. Tokens, I left it on default because we're just getting back a YouTube description. Click continue, go to test, run your test. Boom, now we should have two pieces things. We've got a YouTube description, we've got a YouTube title that have now been written by ChatGPT. So now the next logical step is click plus, click YouTube or Vimeo or whatever you're going to be uploading to, and let's get the video all tied together and get it uploaded to YouTube. So in this case, I'm using YouTube. My event will be upload video. Get logged into my YouTube account, my channel, wherever you want these things to live. Title, here we go. Now we're going to be tying it all together. So my title, I'm going to go back to my title step, right? So we've got all these different steps that have happened to this point you can choose from. So if you notice, I have a nice little title step here under Create YouTube, Title. Nope, that's description. There it is. And you're going to want to select that output by scrolling down, the reply from ChatGPT, which is the actual thing you want. Now, a word of kind of advice here, if it's sending back weird quotation marks or weird symbols, you can put a step in between these two steps here using one of these format steps. And the format step, there's a step called find and replace. So you can find all the quotation marks, and if you leave the replace box just blank, when it goes through that step, it'll find all those weird, that whatever that quotation mark or weird mark was, and just delete it. And then what you would do when you get to this particular YouTube step now is you would use the results from the filter step as opposed to the results from one of our previous steps. But in this case, I'm going to delete that because we don't need that. So YouTube action. So I'm going to put the reply from my YouTube title step. My description, I'm going to use the reply from the YouTube description step. Video, that's that same direct media link that we have been messing with that we first sent to get transcribed, etc. So that's all the way back in the Dropbox step. So when you click down here, you'll click your Dropbox step and just go to your direct media link or whatever file service you're using. Privacy, I set mine to private on YouTube. I don't want this to be a public video that that just shows up in people's search results. So I set it to private where only people with the link can view it. And then I'm going to go down here, made for kids, false. Notify my subscribers. No, they don't need to know that I'm making these, right? So then next step, click test. So now what's going to happen now is it's going to take the video from Dropbox, it's going to take the description, take the title, it's going to build this nice little YouTube video, upload it to your YouTube channel, done, right? And what it's also going to do is respond with a link to that video, which is great because now we can use that in this meat and potato steps, which is actually creating the SOP. This is where we're putting it all together now. We've got the transcript, we have an uploaded video, we have a link to the video. So now we need the AI to just create our gorgeous, detailed, step-by-step standard operating procedure. So in this case, same thing. I'm going to use ChatGPT as my trigger or as the software step here. I'm going to go to the event as conversation. This is my account. So action, this is where we get into it. So now this particular prompt, this took me hours to figure out to get it really dialed in so it was generating SOPs in the way that I think it's really good. If you notice, my structure is very specific. It's got a purpose, you've got your procedures. Not only that, you're going to have an FAQ section at the end. Everything's very structured, very well written. This is the way I like to have SOPs. You'll even see at the top here, it's dynamically putting in our YouTube video. So that is available for purchase as part of the prompt pack. If you want to save all the steps and just copy these from me, you're more than welcome. Or again, you can just type in your own here, play around until you're getting the response you want. But in my case, you're an expert at creating detailed SOPs. It's got a lot of very specific stuff in here. And then the next step, if you notice at the very end of my prompt here, transcript. That's got to go in there too, right? Because it's got to know what it's creating the SOP on. So it's that same transcript that we generated all the way back up here. My model, I'm using GPT-4o. It's very fast. It's been very good. There may be 5 or 6 out by now by the time you're watching this. Who knows? Memory key. I didn't use the memory key for this step because at this point, I've already got everything I need for it to start building here. Username, assistant, your helpful assistant. All of this stays the same. I up my tokens for this one to 4,000 just so it's got plenty of room to play. My temperature one, top one, right? So click continue, hit your test. It should create a nice little SOP. So now comes the step of where do we want this SOP to go? It's got to come into existence. Right now it's just living in the robot sphere. So let's go. In my step, I went to Dropbox. I'm already using it. And the event was create a text file, which is great. Text files are super future proof. I love text files. Very lightweight, easy to send. Pretty much anybody's anything can open it. So you get logged in. So under my action, I'm putting it all together, right? So the default Dropbox space, this is my second folder I showed you at the very beginning. My was it generating SOPs? So this is that folder. Right? You can also just kind of click up here and copy some of this path if you need to. But remember, it's a cloud-based system. In this case, all it needs is this part. So my bots do not delete folder, GPT generator SOP folder. So under file name, this is that great little YouTube title, right? This is the YouTube title, but it's also going to become the file name. We know it's already in the naming convention we like. So I use that step. This is the YouTube title step, the output from that, the reply, file content. So you can type other things in here and then use the dynamic insertions from these steps to kind of fill in what you want. So I wrote the words, see the video walkthrough here. And then in my YouTube step, there's a nice little play URL that gets sent to us, right? So this is the actual direct link to the URL to the video. So I've dynamically inserted that. So that'll go, hey, see the video walkthrough here. Boom, there's the URL. Put some little dashes, and then all I had to do was insert the step from this create SOP, the reply, because this is my actual SOP now. So it's going to have this at the top, and then boom, the SOP. And you see that in practice where it's got see the video walkthrough, boom, it inserts the link, and then bam, here's the whole SOP. So I've got it creating that. I don't want it to override anything. And then when I click test step, you click test, and you should magically see a nice little video or a nice little generated SOP, bloop, plop into your box, and then there you go. And then you can go through and tweak and edit, make sure all this looks nice. So some tips on this. The more detailed you are when you walk through your video, the more explanations you give. I'm just clicking everywhere, sorry. The more explanations you give, the more you talk in depth about each little step that you're doing, things to watch out for, things to do if something's not right, all of those little things, all of that information is what is super helpful to ChatGPT to create that SOP. So the better you do at explaining it that first time, the better your SOP is going to come out on the back end. Because a lot of this this frequently asked questions, is ChatGPT listening for you, giving those little nuggets of like, hey, watch out for this, and here's a problem with this, and this could happen, make sure you do this, etc. And that's what it's going to develop these frequently asked questions from. So keep that in mind. If it's for you, if you're training your team, say, hey, really do a good job of explaining each little micro step here in your video, and then save it into the folder and sit back and relax. And if you're going through and things look wonky, you would just go back in each little step where that thing is being generated and tweak your prompt and do another test and just keep testing and testing until you get exactly the result you want. So that's it. That's how to use robots to create SOPs using Zapier. Again, you can purchase the prompts through the prompt pack if you'd like to have that, or just give it a go yourself. Look forward to you getting rich because you're not having to do anything anymore because you have a whole staff doing it for you. Enjoy.